what better way to see what I'm saying by logging on to our YouTube channel, and you see, to my left and to my right, and sort of in front of us equally, an opportunity to have an engaged, informed discussion as we talk initially about the Cayman Arts Festival, and then my good friends will join us. Want me to tell you about it more? Well, right after this quick little break. Stay tuned.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, sitting in with us, they did such a wonderful job when I was sort of on hiatus, traveling the globe and enjoying. Just away from my desk. But there are we and Mr. Patrick Smith. Gents, good afternoon, man. Thanks for sitting with us. We're going to have some good fun this afternoon, right?
Pleasure.
As we welcome to talk about the Cayman Arts Festival, Ms. Fran McConvey. I think, Ms. Fran, you represent what I think, music is accessible when it comes to educating our students, for them to enjoy not just the artistic pursuit, but to enjoy for the sole benefit sometimes of being able to play amongst the church brethren, to be able to entertain family, and equally to take it internationally on the professional stage. So you encourage us, you nurture us, you make it seem accessible. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Marius, it falls on your shoulders, my friend, to make this all happen.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody has to take the organizational lead, and thankfully, it's you.
I hope just the work to be seen on myself at least as possible. Thank you.
Well, I apologize that we're not only just on radio these days now, but we blended technologies, and Miss Susan behind the scenes make it seamless. So, but as I was sharing with Badir and Patrick earlier, the notion that through Cayman Arts Festival, we're starting to promote not just the artistic pursuits, but inviting and involving the community, and later on, if Badir is okay with it, to delve into his creative genius as well. Maybe we can
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. But Marius, from the perspective, we've been over the years having a great opportunity to talk about not just after school programs, but the annual trips now to Lucerne, the growing sort of interest, but also the awareness amongst the public that if I'm not being sort of too inflated, in my perspective, the creative genius that is recognized within our young people, we just need to harness it, nurture it, and give them the opportunity. And I said that earlier because Ms. Fran has done that in the early days. The students sometimes take them out of class, and even if it's just a few hours for the week, it means a lot to them. So how do we do that?
I think it's a teamwork, and the way how we do it now, let's say Fran discovered diamonds somehow in the schools, and we try with Cayman Arts Festival to polish them and expose them to the public. This year was a very, very busy year for us for the first time. And we've been here and we have discussed. We had 6 students that we sent to Lucerne. On my side, somehow, the logistics and the financial part, it was a lot to find in a short amount of time all those money to send these kids. I mean, I will remind it's $5,000 per child to go there, and I don't have in mind right now. It was a long list of persons from the community and sponsors that they came on board in a very short amount of time and made this amount possible. Then we had another student that we sent to a piano camp in New York, and it was then we had the students that we sent them in Cuba. So it was everything just for them to expose them and to make them to see how it is outside of the island. When we send them, before sending them, it was like, oh, we just go to a camp. When they came, and Fran can confirm this and she can speak a bit more, they came with the dream of becoming musicians. So they saw how it is New York, how it is in the jungle, and they realized that it's potential. They have potential. We watched them online. They had some online concerts at Luzerne, and they were not like, okay, do you want to perform? Come to perform. They auditioned there, and they were, let's say, allowed to be in these shows. And our kids, they've been there at least 3-4 times, maybe more. And I let Fran, because Dequan was there, and she knows more the students. She was in touch more with them. If you don't know, they are not allowed with phones there, with computers, with any. It's just music. You just have to go, like in old times when you take that phone and you ring home and say, "Mama, I'm here. I'm still alive." So just don't worry about. But I let Fran to talk more about this one. We are proud of what we've done this year, because it's never done before. We were sending just one, and that's it. Now it was different.
Ms. Fran?
I think what we've got to be most proud of is the fact that the program that we're running, where we have groups that come up, they're beginners, and they move on, and they always work in groups. So we have maybe a group of 12 students, and they work on that. These students can then compete and go somewhere like the camp in Luzerne, and they can compete with students from the United States and other parts of the world. I think it's absolutely amazing. And our best kids now are really up there with their counterparts all over the world. So that really makes you feel good. So we were able to send students like Jonathan and Cameron off, and Dequan, and they are right there at the top. And then the next group are competing in the junior camps. So it's really good. We're at the moment we're just starting the new year, and we've got beginners. I've got huge numbers of people who're interested in their children learning. The classes that we do are really for, they're aimed at students who would not normally have the opportunity to play, that they wouldn't have, they wouldn't have access to private lessons or instruments. They're not necessarily all from the government schools, although we do try and target the government primary schools. We do have some from private schools as well. But those are the students we're targeting, and we want students who are passionate about music. Students who are going to go home and practice. Students who are going to be there banging on your door at 7 o'clock in the morning, can I come and practice? Those are the students we want. Students who have ability, but also a passion. And those are students we know that if we work with them consistently and give them opportunities, they will excel. And in excelling in music, they also excel in other subjects as well. It's a win-win all round.
Sometimes when we look at it, and the idea that any activity, whether it's music or whether it's math, whether it's football or whether it's some other sport, sometimes we see that if a student, a young person, dedicating that amount of time to that one sort of singular activity, we think, well, what else are they doing? You're sharing that in this case, we're seeing them not just an artistic pursuit, but academically as well, and developing in other areas. So win-win.
And it's all about practice. If children practice, they will reap the rewards. It's the same as any coach will tell you. The swim coaches have the kids out there every day swimming for a couple of hours a day, and that's how you succeed. And it's exactly the same with music. But the nice thing with music is our musicians are so keen that they will go away and practice. They want to do it. That's great. That's how they get to be good.
So what kind of musicians are we talking about? Are we talking, orchestra? Are we talking just sort of any music? If there's a kid producing music at home, what is the
Cayman
specialty?
Arts. The idea with Cayman Arts is that we want to identify the student who is gifted, and then we're going to put opportunities in their way. So we have kids who are doing piano lessons as a group. We have students that do strings, woodwind, brass, not so much percussion. That's on its way. We have a soul band. We have some jazz going on. Two jazz groups. We've got an orchestra and string ensembles. We have
choirs.
2 choirs. Yes, I'm forgetting the choirs. The choirs are fantastic. Naomi Walnut does those. There's a junior choir and a high school age choir, and they are fantastic. They're doing really well. Huge number of kids come out for that.
So is it interactive then, insofar as the kids actually get to, or the students get to influence the particular direction of a particular program?
Yes, I would say it is, because we will go with the way that the child is interested. I mean, if we have a child who's particularly good at something, we will fall over ourselves to actually put something in place to help that child.
It's great. I think, today a lot of kids have the ability to make music without learning an instrument, without learning theory. And I think it sounds like you're kind of doing the opposite, that, you teach or you promote kids to learn instruments and
Players.
and play
Exactly.
instrument, right? And
Rather
I think,
than the theory first, actually.
right. It's kind of a lost art, to playing an instrument, because you don't really need to make music nowadays. But I think it's an incredible asset to have, even if you do want to make music.
That's absolutely right. Sorry, it's Glenn in anger here. I think definitely it's interesting. I've come across situations whereby people have been analysing the quality of music that's been produced by the generation of musicians who don't necessarily use live musicians to create the tracks that they actually produce.
Right.
And comparing that with what happened perhaps a generation before, and there is a noticeable difference in, not one is better than the other, but in terms of quality, there's something more human about the creative process whenever you have live musicians on a track, compared to people, sort of creating a backing track from, sort of
Electronic means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And particularly when it comes to, and this is one thing I feel very strongly about, when it comes to live performance, there's something very special and magical about a live performance, which you only get when people are actually physically playing the instruments, and certain levels of spontaneity that you achieve in a live performance that is picked up by people who are coming to listen to the live performance, which I think is not necessarily the same when you have the music created by electronic means.
Yep.
So it's that human side of things that I think is something which we should do everything that we can to preserve. And also for the musicians themselves, because I've been having a few discussions with some of my students, and I say to them, I find it fascinating that, as a composer, I think it's wonderful to have more tools at your disposal to create or to express what you have inside, which is where the technology is fantastic. But there's that interactive magic that goes on when somebody is actually involved with creating the sounds that they want to hear, rather than depending on a third party to create those same sounds. It's a very interesting discussion, which I know many people will sit there here and debate left, right, and centre. But I'm still very much for live music is here to stay. Creating music is one of the most amazing things that any human being can be involved with. And of course, if your tools are electronic, great. But if your tools are yourself or other people, other human beings, I think you take things to different levels.
Would you say that there's an additional dimension insofar as, in many ways, music or learning music is like learning another language?
Yes, absolutely. I tell this to my students all the time.
It's true.
For me, it's interesting. When I came to music when I was a teenager, or when I was a kid, and doing it as a teenager, I just did as I was told. And after several decades of doing it, I look back on it and I see things from a completely different perspective. And exactly what you have said, it is a language, and it's a language which is a universal language, and you learn to express yourself through the language of a violin, through the language of, and you're using instruments as the different languages, because the fact I play the piano doesn't mean I can just transfer that to playing the violin all of a sudden, or playing the flute. I can't even get a sound out of the flute.
However, saying that, one thing I'd like to add is some of our students, or a lot of them, when I was a child, your parent or your school, they signed you up. I mean, I got put in the violin class when I was at primary school with 12 of us, and we learnt to play the violin. But there was no options. That was it. You were given a violin to take home. And my parents signed me up for piano lessons. But the children that we have now, they are so inquisitive, and they're there. I have one boy particularly I'm thinking of at the moment who plays the viola. He went to Luzerne to play the viola, but he also plays the piano. He plays the tuba in one of our ensembles. He plays baritone saxophone. tenor saxophone. He just wants to play everything, and they become very good. and they just get to be very
Multilingual.
good at doing these things. It becomes a language in itself.
Yeah.
And having access to all these different groups and opportunities for a child who's really fascinated by music is amazing.
So not unlike the polyglot as well. So we get it where we see the instrument. Now maybe we can talk about that when we come back and how that after school program is going to continue to be supported to access. Because something you shared earlier, we have this perception that just because a parent or a family seems to be financial position doesn't mean that the child always has access to
It's true.
to certain programs.
It's true. It depends on many factors.
It does indeed. All right, pause, take a short break. This is the beauty of arts, and then when our guests leave, Badir and Patrick will continue. Man, that's when the fireworks start. Stay tuned. We'll talk today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore,
Super Stitch is having a huge after summer fabric clearance. 25% off most fabrics for 2 days only. So if you snooze, you'll lose. This Friday and Saturday, September 27th and 28th. Lots of African prints, suit-ins, dress prints, and solids. Don't miss these fantastic savings on most fabrics at Super Stitch. Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at number 39 Pasadena Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Your favorite event of the year is here. A.L. Thompson's Home Fest is this Friday and Saturday. Come and take advantage of deep discounts on fans, lights, outdoor furniture, paint, bath and kitchen fixtures, cabinets, windows, doors, and much, much more. Enjoy 15% off on trusted brands like Kohler, Delta, Closet Made, and Valspar. Take up to 20% off KitchenAid and Whirlpool appliances. A.L. Thompson's Home Fest is the place to be this weekend. Don't miss the incredible deals on the trusted brands you love at Home Fest.
Today, millions of people all across America are building a life in recovery from addiction and mental illness, helping themselves
and helping each other, with friends, family, and community lending their strength and support.
Join the Voices for Recovery.
Together, we are stronger.
Join the Voices for Recovery and attend one of our upcoming workshops to learn how you can support someone impacted by substance abuse. District workshops will be offered during the month of September in West Bay, Georgetown, and East End. For further information, contact the Department of Counseling Services at 949-8789.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. And thanks so much for joining us. And as we sort of almost close out the month, definitely almost close out the week, what better way to have a wonderful company for the rest of the program of Patrick Schmidt and Badir Abbey and now our guests as we talk about Cayman Arts Festival, Glenn, Miss Fran and Marius. there are many of us who, because we kind of see ourselves as almost connoisseurs, but by any great stretch of the imagination, certainly wonderful spectators. Thankfully, there are excellent participants that we can go and enjoy, both locally and those you've arranged over the years to come in and grace our shores. Now, Glenn, with greatest of deference to all, I think those of us who got to sit and listen to you, even when you're hitting respectful, so called the steel drums, you've taken that instrument to a whole new level. In my eyes, it makes it even appealing to me, and it shows you what you can do with discipline, with dedication, but also, with that. I call it that gifting. So, for those who are listening, I know there are some great things coming up as well, as you share with us.
Right, so we have one of the things that is key to our after-school program is the fact that our students get to see international artists who come here to perform. And it did wonders for me when I was a student growing up in Nigeria. That was my only chance, but then we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have access to anything else, but whatever you had right there on your doorstep. And what we had on our doorstep was, from time to time, probably once or twice a year, an international artist would come in. And that was my only opportunity to actually get to benchmark anything that I was playing and how it should sound, if that makes sense. And I found it incredibly invaluable. So that's one thing that we love to do here. We have these platforms where these international artists come in and they perform, but we also showcase our young students in the program who are, being they're coming to the attention of the general public, and people get to see how they've progressed over a period of time. And one event coming up next week, for example, because we have these periodically throughout the season, is a phenomenal pianist from the UK. His name is Martin Roscoe. He's one of the top pianists in the UK. I was very privileged to study with him for 5 years at the Royal Academy of Music. And he's here just for 2 days. He does about 100 concerts a year all over the world, predominantly the UK as well. He still finds time to commit to 1 day of teaching a week at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. But what's fascinating for me is to see what's going to happen when he comes here and do a masterclass with 2 of our top pianists here, Jonathan Badassi and Cameron Gilson. And the wonderful thing is, he will get to work with them, and they'll get to hear, what he has to offer at that level. So we're talking about, these people have done their grade 8 1 or 2 years ago, and they are, they really want to be pushed even further. And to have somebody of this caliber coming in and who is extremely, generous with his time and his sort of his spirit, in a sense, it's going to be great to see. He's a lovely guy. Great to see how they interact with him and the things he picks up on. For them to improve on in their playing. But his program is wonderful, and one of the pieces in the program by Schumann, Kinderscenen, this is Scenes from Childhood, was a piece I heard him play back in 1993, 1994, when he came up to my university to perform, and I heard him, and I was still debating whether I should go to the Royal Academy or go to Juilliard. And right there and then, I decided, because of the way he played, I thought, I will need to learn from someone who can make the piano sing like that, and who's a poet of the instrument. I'm going to go to the Royal Academy and study with him. And that tends to happen. You are attracted to the particular professor who you're going to be studying with day in, day out, when you're over there. So yeah, he's here next week performing the 3rd of October at St. George's Anglican Church. And he's got a phenomenal program, most of which I've actually heard before, so many of his party pieces. And it's going to be amazing, really amazing. And we're very delighted. We've got a wonderful instrument, which the All Foundation has very kindly been given us funds to purchase, which lives in the library and is our instrument of choice when we have our music at the library concerts on a Thursday once a month. And it's going to be nice to hear how the instrument sounds in his hands, because it's a very, very fine instrument indeed. And so, yes, I'm using this as an opportunity to get people to come out. Many of my students are coming from UCCI, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for them to come, and task them with writing about the experience they're going to go through. They've probably never been to a piano recital in many of their cases, and I said to them, you have to go, and I want to hear what you take away from that experience and share with the rest of the class, because I think it's something which many people will really remember for many years to come.
If I may, Omar, as I was just thinking of the Glenn's comments, you take sport, so you get maybe it's one player or a group of players, whether it's a team or whether it's a sort of invitational, and you have a phenomenal coach come and sharing with them. This is similar. Or if you take someone in business, a finance class, a professor come in and giving a particular lecture, tutorials are probably what we would call them way back when. to give those students a little extra insight beyond the textbooks and the like. But like some of us, we love music. The best instrument that we can play is the radio. You've shared publicly that you're not unlike me. You know, we don't really have any musical gifting.
I don't play any instrument, but I have some artists that they thank me after their concerts for the work that it was done behind.
Yeah.
I realized actually when I started to help Cayman Arts Festival and Cayman National Choir in the past, my simple idea was, let's take the burden of admin side from the shoulders of an artist. You have to ask an artist what that means, because in that moment she can come and just play and think of just music, and you don't have to worry about anything else, tickets, flyers, bookings, and all these kind of things that it's
the logistics.
It's a lot, and seems to work so far. Seems to work. And I wanted to mention something we have spoken when we were in the break about teaching, about who's student, who's the teacher here, who is the student. See what that means when a student is talking about a teacher. I was not being able to talk about Martin Roscoe promoting this event the way how Glenn, his student, did. I can talk about my teachers, but it's something else. So you feel the passion and the love of what they do behind of this. And I was like, okay, it's good that it's here to promote this. I come with dry things, thanking to the sponsors, because without them, it's impossible to do events. And in my opinion, arts, it's not, they don't have the place we're supposed to be in the community, to be a bit above others. And the sponsor that we have, we really cherish, no matter the amount that we receive, because what we do with those money actually in the end inspire the kids that we have spoken before, and we reach a level where actually the after school program, we develop so much this program that put in the shade the events that we produce. I mean, the sponsors come more often to support the after school program and not necessarily the events. But if we don't have events, we cannot. It's like a circle here. You can't break it. And I want to thank to IMS, to Sterling Trust, Vistra, and Deloitte that they help with this event. We have 2 piano concerts per year. If in the first part of the year we brought a young student from, I think he was at, where is Deaconn now, at Wells?
He's at the Royal Academy now, but he was at Wells Cathedral School as well as a specialist musician, just like Deaconn.
And now we brought a professor. So it was a nice balance, student and professor of piano this year.
And so how does one get tickets for the event?
We sell them online most of the time, CaymanArtsFestival.com. This is our website. You can find them there. At the door, if somebody, we'll have tickets at the door. If somebody, sometimes they don't want to use the online applications to buy the ticket, they just have to call 9225550. This is the Cayman Arts Festival number. I will answer, and I will handle without any problem these situations. We have $35 US for adults, $10 US for students, and we try to make this event as a family event, and we have a family package where the entire family, 4 persons, mother, father, or 4 persons in that family can come to join us for US $75.
So I guess you let us know if you sell out before it's the day of the concert, correct?
But that's the beauty of it. And I know, Ms. Fran, you guys have to get back, and I certainly welcome the opportunity throughout the school year as it is, because your program sort of mimics the school year, not just the calendar year. But we get the after school program, we get these sort of ancillary concerts throughout. For those, though, who, as Glenn was sharing, not looking at the piano recitals in the same vein, maybe they haven't been to one. As a teacher, as even a performer, I think
it's great the kids to get out and see a real performer. I mean, somebody who's a serious performer. it's a great opportunity. And I think there's family tickets available. It's I would suggest anyone with children who are interested should go along to the concert. And while I've got the mic, can I also say I would like to add that the programs that we run are totally dependent on sponsorship, the goodwill of the public. Recently we've had a few people who've called in and said, I've got a violin at home, or I've got a cello at home, would you like to pick it up? Or they've said, I would like to sponsor an instrument. Or we've had others who would like to sponsor a child. A lot of times, at the moment, I had to write an email this morning to a parent who was on the list, and I had to say that the class was full because we didn't have enough instruments. And I hate to do that. So we can usually add kids, but we can't add if we haven't got instruments for them to use. So anyone who feels like helping, sponsorship, that would be great. We also have, on a Saturday when we do our classes, we now have half a dozen people from the community who are musicians who come in and help. And that is amazing and so helpful. These are volunteers who come and give their time. So anyone who'd like to volunteer in that way, that's great as well. And that helps us. This year we've been able to add a lot of woodwind classes just because people have given up their time as volunteers. So anything like this is really helpful.
As we, I know, sort of wrap up the conversation, we do have an opportunity to welcome a caller to our studio. Let's listen to our callers. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for sharing.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to congratulate Ms. Fran McConway and Mr. Marius. I know them both. And, my children went through the music program through middle school, high school, and primary school. And I think that music plays such an important role in our community. And we have to just keep on encouraging children to participate and get involved because, music makes you a happier person.
True.
I agree.
Definitely.
And definitely the children that get involved with the programs, the band programs, for instance, in schools, doesn't matter what school it is, those children have got a motivation. They have somewhere where they go at lunchtime, somewhere before school. They have a band of friends who are not necessarily just the ones they go to class with. It's a win-win all round. And it does make you a happier person. I think I'm a fairly happy person.
Yes, I think it makes you a happier person. And and besides that too, there's always so many opportunities. I know my children, they got to travel a lot in the world because of music. And I just want to encourage our young people to get involved.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. And final thoughts, perhaps Glenn, Marius, and Ms. Fran?
All I want to say is that we would like as many as possible to come at the event, especially students. I will repeat this one all the time. If you feel that your child should be at this concert, even if you think that, okay, I don't have a good financial situation, bring the child there. Don't worry about that one. We will be at the door and we will accommodate to see the concert. It's not a problem. And we hope to see as many as possible.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely something not to be missed. It's, trust me, going to be a memorable experience for those who are able to come to the concert. And in the past, I have remembered going to events like this and looking at the audience and saying, oh my goodness, I feel I should have asked XYZ to come. And that's my guiding light right now in terms of my principle. I say, I will not be in that position where I'm sitting in the audience saying, I wish I had told so and so before. I'm telling them now. So it's going to be wonderful. It's wonderful repertoire, very accessible. I think people will be amazed by what they hear. And the whole experience of a recital from beginning to end, almost an hour and a half of music. It's amazing, all from memory.
I would like to add something. This is something new. Just myself and Glenn at this moment. We had recently here another pianist that came for a piano camp, was here for a week, and we did a great job. And he is the manager of Vendôme Prize. It's a piano competition in Switzerland under a huge festival called Verbier Festival. And we agreed that the winner of that festival from Switzerland. They have their festival every 2 years. To add as a prize a concert in Cayman Islands, and we will have next year I was reading last night, he participated in another huge festival, and the reviews for this young student, they are amazing. This will be one of the best pianists in the world in the next year. I think it is 20, 21 years old. I can't pronounce his name correctly. It's from Latvia, Daumans Lipiņš, something like that. But he will be here next year in April, and this partnership with this festival, it's amazing for us and for Cayman. I was asked to write something about Cayman Arts Festival to be added to that website festival, and next to Cayman Arts Festival there will be 3 other festivals: Luzerne Festival from Switzerland, Verbier Festival, and the Wigmore Hall. These are some of the top festivals in the world, and the 4th one, Cayman Arts Festival. So it's something that we are so proud.
So breaking news here on Talk Today. Well, certainly invite you guys to come back on throughout the year and into next year as well as we continue. Thank you very much to each of you. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
And certainly come back on to share with us. Now, after the break, Patrick and Badir and Patrick, sitting at the table here, giving us their insight, their intellect. I'm intrigued to see where they're going to take us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
In recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens presents the Brenda Tibbetts Lund Memorial Walk Run with 2 dates and locations for your convenience.
On Saturday, October 5th, take part in a 5K walk run at Kaibo, Waterkey Beach. And on Sunday, October 13th, join a 5K walk run or 10K at the 7 Mile Public Beach.
The Brenda Tibbetts Lund Memorial Walk Run, October 5th at Kaibo Waterkey Beach and October 13th at the 7 Mile Public Beach.
We at The Wharf have the only multi-purpose conference room in Cayman, providing high-speed internet and all state-of-the-art audio and visual, and are now open and ready for your meetings and events. Multiple wireless microphones and Dolby surround speakers make your presentations on the giant screen clear and interactive. Imagine your meetings with a view, a full bar and kitchen on site where all your needs are cared for, just a few steps away from the Caribbean Sea. All F&B will be customized to your preference. Call 949-2231 or email info@wharf.ky to start planning your waterfront meeting now.
I'm going to Vamp Motors to test drive the new 7-seater Rush.
They have some really sweet deals going on now, not true?
Yep, on SUVs. And they sweeten the deal by giving you a warm oven-baked cookie with each test drive.
Better test drive more than one, just to be sure.
Take a test drive for a sweet surprise this month at Vamp Motors. Test drive any SUV and receive a freshly baked cookie. It's our way of saying thanks for dropping by to check out our huge sale on every SUV in stock. Save up to $4,400 during Vamp's summer SUV sale. That's every SUV in stock on sale for thousands off or cash back. Sweeten the deal only at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
Did you know that once properly sanitized, some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after coming in contact with floodwater? In order to properly sanitize these tins, always remove labels, and then wash tins in a strong detergent solution using a brush to get rid of excess impurities. Tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air dried before opening. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit the DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
RC Fusion featuring Billboard pop hit songs and more from the 70s to the 90s.
RC Fusion.
Weekdays from 10 a.m. till 12. RC Fusion.
Brought to you by Nathan General Maintenance and Construction. You break it, they fix it. Call the General for a free quote. 917-7586.
RC Fusion. Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for all those who continue to support our communities, whether it's in academic pursuits, the athletic, the artistic, and certainly see the good work through the Cayman Arts Festival. Now, we're almost there to our headline news at 1, but as a way to sort of entice, intrigue, invite, and allow you to be informed, hopefully, even at my expense, entertained, honored that we have Badir and Patrick sitting with us. Hey, listen, man, it's a Friday, and sometimes you only recognize that not everybody in our society always have, well intentions, and they always seem to want to be. Maybe I'll think about another word in a minute. But when I sit next to the two of you, I see gentlemen who are not just dedicated and who are honorable, but who sincerely have this strong sense of, developing within our society a notion that we're seeking excellence, that you're contributing all that you can. So I'm excited to have a dialogue, to invite our public to listen, to call in and to share, and to be able to, to go into the weekend and realize that we're in a great place. We have much to contribute, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people out there that are in exactly the same boat. They want the best for themselves and for this community as a whole. So you're spot on.
Yeah, man. Well, I believe if you raise the bar, the bar will be raised. 949-8037.
It's pretty profound, actually. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, simple but deep.
Yeah.
It's just how it is, See, Susan told me that earlier.
I remember that when I'm at the gym later. Raise the bar will be raised.
There you go, man. All right, well, when we come back from our news break, join us. But there are we, Patrick Schmidt. We're going to have a wonderful discussion for the remaining 90 minutes or so. Who knows? We may get 2 days and 2 hours. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The annual DG's 5K Challenge is taking place this Sunday. In order to facilitate this event, Elgin Avenue between Hospital Road and the former Humber Lane will be closed from Saturday until 12 p.m. on Sunday. The event begins at 6 a.m. in front of the Government Administration Building, and participants will travel east along Elgin Avenue, turn south onto Huldah Avenue, then west onto Smith Road, travel south along Walkers Road, west onto Melmac Drive, then north along South Church Street and Harbour Drive before turning east onto Ford Street, south on Edward Street, and returning to the Government Administration Building via Elgin Avenue. The event is expected to finish by 9:30 a.m. Motorists are advised to exercise caution when traveling in these areas on Sunday morning. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A 12-year-old African-American girl has accused 3 white classmates of pinning her down and cutting off her dreadlocks with scissors. Amory Allen says the assault happened during break time at a private school in Springfield, Virginia on Monday. She alleges that the boys held her down on a slide and called her hair ugly and nappy and cut some off. Nearly 500 men and boys have been rescued from a building in the northern city of Kaduna, where the detainees were allegedly sexually abused and tortured, Nigerian police have said. Children as young as 5 were among those in chains at what was thought to be an Islamic school, officers said. And the Duke of Sussex has visited the former minefield in Angola where his mother Diana, Princess of Wales, walked 22 years ago, shortly before she died. Prince Harry visited the site, which has become a bustling community since Diana's campaign. Wearing body armor, he also visited a partially cleared minefield nearby and set off a controlled explosion. Diana captured global attention when she walked through the live minefield in 1997. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Before, during, and after a storm, the Water Authority will use all available media channels, including social media, to advise the public of when the water supply is connected and safe to use. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more hurricane preparedness tips. Visit the Water Authority's website at www.waterauthority.ky or follow us on social media.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. May I guess, formally, 45 minutes, 48 minutes, 49 minutes. How many minutes now into the show already? And I haven't done so properly and publicly. I want to thank both Badir Awi and Patrick Schmidt for, not just doing a sterling job, but, exemplary. As you see how Susan laughs, you guys see it, right? I just love how her smile lights up that room. I mean, you'd almost, think that her room had a wonderful picture window out over the 7 Mile Beach or the Barkas Bay. I mean, look at that. They can hear you, Susan. No, but seriously, man, the way you guys not just so graciously filled in, but the wonderful, wonderful job that you did. Thank you very much. Thank you not just for being of service, but for demonstrating within our community that we have incredible talent, just like the Cayman Arts Festival is trying to, with our students, develop, their sort of musical interest, their musical aptitude, and we need to show that our people are equally able to take up the mantle of the media and be a part of it. It's not something, but there that most of us, as Caymanians in particular, we don't like microphones unless we're politicians, But seriously, we don't seem to like being in front and center in front
cameras
of the crowd.
Even less,
and cameras even less. But if we make it part of our psyche, as it were, we'll see different things. Our young people seemingly will have a phone or some digital device in hand, making all sorts of good stuff. But how do we present using this tool? So thanks very much, Jens. I really, really appreciate it.
And thank you for the opportunity. I mean, certainly speaking for myself, it's been a pleasure to have this experience. I'm a novice, obviously, and but if it weren't for your invitation to us, then we wouldn't have been here. And so,
well,
if
I might, if you don't mind, chastise me if I've been disrespectful, but I had to continually, and I thank you for allowing me to continually ask you, hey, are you have time, would you willing to come on? Because if we don't encourage and nurture, just like I think the parents sometimes or the teacher saying to the child, keep going. You consistently encourage the child. Because coming in front of these things, we don't like this. The camera, the microphone, we don't like it. So thank you for not making me feel like, oh boy, you're bothering me. You were always receptive, so I appreciate that.
Well, but I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
You can't do that.
That's true. I can't. But I just wanted to say that, for me personally, as is probably the case for many people out there in Radio Land, it's difficult to, especially in our small community, to think of yourself sitting on the mic on Radio Cayman, listened to by so many people and watched by others and so on, and to realize that you are going to make mistakes and so on, and just not wanting to make any mistakes. And also simultaneously having that requirement to ensure that we keep the topical issues going and we keep the callers calling and interested in what we have to say.
Yeah, man. But thanks for that too. But there, I joke and jest that he can't steal the thunder, but for you're behind the camera, you're producing, you're directing. That's in a different vein. Now you're front and center. I wouldn't say that you're more amenable to it necessarily, or use a word like that you were more apt to jump at it. But the notion that even those who may see themselves on one vein of the creative aspect, I mean, you're awesome, just through the awesome productions alone. But it takes a particular willingness to want to venture into this arena, to be, as Patrick shared, front and center, where you're asking people to listen, to contribute. You're inviting a bit of commentary, but critique, not just from family and friends who may pick up on every little thing you do wrong or suggest what you could do better, but to those who are listening, say, aha, got him now. He's on this area. Oh, look what she said then. It is a small community. No matter where you go, people are going to be cognizant of what was said or what wasn't.
Yeah, it takes a certain amount of bravery, really, to express yourself. I think in any domain, whether it's film, that's what I do. Whether it's music, like a lot of people will make music and keep it at home, and no one will ever hear the music. Same with films. I know some films that will never release. I think coming on the air and talking and speaking, it takes a certain amount of bravery. It takes a certain amount of bravery to call in, even. There's been times when I wanted to call in. I was like, man, I got a phone right there in my hand, but I don't press send because I'm scared. There's a little, fear there. So I think, but that's something that we want. I think we're all on the same page here, that we want to encourage the community to speak, to talk, to express, even if your view is different. And you'll find that it's not that different, It's amazing when you feel like you have an opinion that is different than other people, and you don't want to speak it because you're like, no, I'm the only one who thinks this. But then when you speak it, then all these other people come, yeah, I think the same thing too, I think that is in itself just something to think about when you're feeling fearful. It's like more people actually think like you do than you realize.
Well, then, if I could then, from that perspective, maybe ask two things. Not just the notion that there's safety in numbers. So if you know that you're going to say A, B, C, and other people are equally supportive of it or have a similar sort of mindset, you may be more inclined, more courageous, more willing,
so.
Right? Mm-hmm. But then equally, if we could develop within our people this sense of confidence that they can respectfully disagree, that they can stand alone and say, listen, you know what? I know the majority thinks A, B, C, but really have they considered X, Y, Z? Have they looked at it from this perspective? Whether it's an economic, social, whether it's political, whether it's financial, whatever that thing is, so that they are willing. And I say that there were a number of, I guess they were probably called then, public service announcements. Radio Cayman used to air. Now, for me, you talked about, on Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman is this icon. And to be a guest on a show was like a big thing. To be facilitating the guest on a show, it's almost like you're going into, Wembley, or you're going into some place. For me, this is a sanctuary. So having an opportunity to maybe get our people to a point where they can do that. Radio Cayman's two PSAs. One was, be a blood donor. The life you save might be your own. I still remember that. Now, I don't know what else was said, but those were the words that were there. I'm convinced, verbatim. And then there was another one saying, that's okay. Be an original. There's only one of you. It's okay to be an original. And I took that literally to heart. I don't have to stand out because I'm doing foolishness. But if my hair is curly, my eyes are green, that's okay. My skin is, back then it was a lot nicer looking, more tan. You were different, and that was okay. Not different in a bad way. It's just that you were different. If you were an original, not a carbon copy. So I think having that influence, that impact, that reach is important. But then with that, where are we in our society? Not just in our schools, but in our homes, in our churches, in our sport organizations, encouraging and developing the ability to critically think, to debate, to discuss, to have that dialogue where there's a difference of opinion, but there's still a disciplined, respectful approach to differences, so that you sit just like a formal debate. You got a proposal, you got a point, and you're back and forth, and then there's a timeline. Okay, that's a structured thing, but we see it in LA, we see it on other things. Now we can see it today. Patrick may propose a particular view. We may agree. We may say, well, what about this? And at the end of the day, we leave and we, have a little bit of chocolate after, and come Monday, we can revisit it again, respectfully. So where are we with that whole notion?
I think that it goes beyond the idea of developing confidence first and then the dealing with topics after. I think the topics that give rise to emotional response and thought response actually creates the confidence, which instills the ability to make the call, to communicate with others. And I think that's why a program such as Talk Today is so fundamentally important. And for the record, and the other programs that Radio Cayman so usefully and importantly operate, the Caymanian people are empowered through it, because through it we are enabled to know what each other are thinking on any particular issue. And if you have an issue that perhaps has not been raised, you have an opportunity to raise it, hence open line.
Right.
And I think that once those things are actually brought to light, then what you have is you have the people gaining the confidence as a result of being stimulated through the topic.
All right. Well, but there are Patrick Smith joins us. It is open line, a deliberate coinage that we picked up because of Radio Cayman's first program way back when some of us were young and were allowed to listen quietly so that we become informed. Now, I'm going to ask, after we take this caller, the word fear. And I thought you meant F-E-A-R, but English being wonderful, we could do F-A-R-E and F-A-I-R, but we get into the word fear, F-E-A-R, as we take fear. My accent isn't as good, Miss Susan. Fear. It doesn't work. Just in West Bay, it's all one and the same. It's how you say it. Let's go to the phones and join a good cameraback friend. Good afternoon and welcome, my friend.
Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good
Quincy
afternoon.
Brown speaking. This is Quincy. How you all
What's
doing?
up, man?
Okay, Quince, how are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing very well, and I have my definition for fear, whether it's to be scared, that fear, or to go to the party with the family, the carnival, as the fear. And right now I'm selling tickets at Foster's Food Fair.
Good promotion. And before you go, right, please don't, if this is not what you're calling for, please remind our listeners about the walk, the change of time on Sunday. But go right ahead, man, because I want to ask you about the fare that we eat as well.
Look at that. You see that? So just to be clear now, I've called to talk about two things, but since I am at Foster's Food Fair, let me quickly say that, as you alluded to, there is a walk run this Sunday. Obviously, the Deputy Governor's walk run happens this Sunday morning, and the Hope for Today Foundation will be having our 7th annual walk run at 6 p.m. this Sunday. We start at Public Beach, and we walk to Discovery Point, and we walk back to Public Beach on the roadside, not on the beach, but on the West Bay 7 Mile Beach Road. You can walk, you can run. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, we are selling tickets at Foster's Food Fair at the airport location. You can get your tickets today, and you get a chance to win some fabulous prizes. And September is the month of recovery. September is Recovery Month. Be a part of the solution. We invite you to come out and walk, run with us on Sunday evening and get your tickets today here at Foster's Food Fair, airport location. Now, having done that, let me say that Sterling, Patrick, Badir, we are all young Caymanians. And I think it is very important that we come to a full appreciation of what it means to be Caymanian, whether you work for government, you work for the private sector, you're an entrepreneur, and what it means to have a Caymanian first policy, something that is lacking in the Cayman Islands. I have been approached by taxi drivers because a lot of people stop me and come to me with their concerns. They're too shy to call the talk show, but they have issues and want someone with the nerve to call in to shed light on that situation. Apparently what's happening, there are some taxi drivers, Caymanians like us, who are not getting the full benefits to enjoy being a taxi. They get the least hours, the least calls, because they have only a part-time taxi driver's license, which means if they should operate outside of their allotted hours, they can be written up and get into trouble. Times are hard. There are people who run taxis, Caymanians who run taxis, that's their livelihood. That is all they have to do is run tourists, locals from point A to point B, and that's how they make their honest keep. It is unfair when people come here from other countries and get the full benefits of being able to get a full taxi driver's license and operate whenever. It is very competitive. I am not using the entitlement card this afternoon, but until we elect a government, until we can get a notion and a motion passed that we understand that we are going to put Caymanians first, I'm afraid we are going to fail as a young nation, because we are marginalizing native, grassroots, born and bred Caymanians, pushing them out. We are increasing our population. We have opened our doors to the world, and we're saying to people, come on into the Cayman Islands, make it your home. I'm not saying that anything wrong with that, but not at the expense of Caymanians, and that is what is happening. Our people are being pushed out. We're losing our culture. I understand that cultures evolve. Yes, they change. Culture does not remain stagnant, but we must have a wholehearted and a concerted well-defined definition for what it means to be Caymanian. Many of us are mixed. Some of you are European Caymanian, Belizean Caymanian, Mexican Caymanian, whatever. I happen to be sixth-generation Caymanian, but I'm not using that as an entitlement card. But it hurts to come home, and I'm not given an opportunity for full-time employment. I understand. You get promises from persons in high positions, but there's always something to block it.
Quincy,
yes, Mr. Patrick. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to ask you a question for clarification purposes. The issue of clarification or definition of Caymanian is something which actually in law has been sorted for all intents and purposes. That's the first thing. However, what I would say to you is that I agree with you that the execution of those provisions that are provided for the protection of Caymanians, which is correct and would be the same correct in any country where the people of that country or the citizens of that country are indeed protected in certain ways. So why do you think we are not being protected by the laws that are already on the books that we have in place to protect us?
Thank you for that definition. Thank you for that clarification. I think the reason being is there's a great divide in these islands. There's a great divide between generational Caymanian and status holder Caymanian. There continues to be that great divide because when I speak to a lady from Australia with her Australian accent, and she tells me, oh, by the way, I'm Caymanian, I can't argue with her because she's a citizen of this country. But when an Easterner who've been up there for donkey years going to look at her and tell her, say, no, Troy, you know no Caymanian, I is Caymanian, therein lies the problem. And those who would tell you, you are not a Caymanian, I'm a Caymanian, well, unfortunately, those are in the minority. So we need to look at it from a political standpoint because the truth of the matter is, technically speaking, those of us born here to Caymanian parents and we have our Cayman Islands passport, we are really British overseas dependent territory citizens. The person who applies for Cayman status gets it and is naturalized, they are Caymanian. So it has been redefined in law. You are absolutely correct, Mr. Patrick, but it is as clear as mud. And from a political standpoint, it's not going to change. And you see, we haven't struggled like other nations in the Caribbean during the era of West Indies Federation during the 1960s, when many countries in the Caribbean opted for independence. Some countries within the African continent went independent during that time as well. So we have never fought. We have never taken on what it means to be emancipated and had to fight with a civil uprising to fight for our rights as Caymanian people. And until that happens, until there is a war between the haves and the have-nots, the belongers and the Johnny-come-latelys, until there's a war, and at the end, who wins the war, then we'll know who controls.
But does anybody in a war win? I mean, you talk about emancipation, but in the words of Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. If I may ask, so when we look at that divide that you speak of, do you think it's compounded by the fact that there was almost a disquiet? I think he used a stronger word than that. Not long ago when Caymanians, despite the legal definition and recognition that you referenced earlier, found themselves having to go to the immigration department, stand in line and get a stamp in their passports to say they were Caymanian, when other people who, whether they got their status yesterday, they had it 30 years ago, had something that was officially recognized, promoted, and almost expected to be produced by the private sector to the government sector to demonstrate that they are Caymanian. People like yourselves who are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 generations deep, just a birth certificate and a passport and a voter's card in and of itself are collectively insufficient to satisfy that they are Caymanian. Is that where part of the problem is when you speak of the case with the person from afar or the person from the east saying...
If I could...
Yes, Mr.
So sorry if I could just add to what you're saying too, Quincy. Bear with me for just a second more. And that is the pragmatic effect of this is that what we have is a situation in which you have laws saying, for example, that Caymanians must be given opportunity to climb within a particular job field, must be given priority as to training, and there are other requirements in the immigration law and the labor law, etc. And yet those things are not actually being enforced. So that you have, for example, the common joke that is not really a joke that many people have I've heard many people mention, which is that they feel it would almost be better off making an application for a job and stating that they're not Caymanian, even if they are first generation Caymanians, because for some reason it is the perception in the general public that being Caymanian and stating that in your job application is disadvantageous.
As opposed to, yeah. So Quincy, what are your continued thoughts, man?
Absolutely correct. I concur with what you're saying, and I want you to know that it insults my integrity. If I'm to join an immigration line or in a line with my voter's ID card, passport, and driver's license, that I have to prove to the young, attractive Filipina or the handsome man from Mexico who is Caymanian because he has his status, I have to prove to them that I'm in fact a Caymanian and I'm born here. I have worked in culture for so long, and I got proved to you that I'm Caymanian. That's very insulting. But I want you to know, being Caymanian, and I can't believe I'm having to utter these words, but I have to utter them. Being Caymanian is it's a disadvantage because there are many hotels and resorts on Grand Cayman that when you apply to be an assistant in the laundry department or whatever department within the resort, if you put your nationality is Caymanian, you're dismissed immediately. It is as if they are not out to hire the local people, and that's where we're coming from. Remember the days of Galleon Beach and Holiday Inn and in places like that, Caymanians ran them places from above right down to the ground. So it's not good. And let me tell you, the war is very real in this country. There are no bullets being fired. There's no swords being fought. But the war is very real, and Caymanians are losing the battle. I'm afraid to tell you that. It is a shame that the only thing that the government has to offer for Caymanians is Northwood Prison, Fairbanks Prison, the mental health ward, and an NAU line that is as long as 7 Mile Beach with people looking help. That's all you have to offer us. Come on, man. You have to train your people. We need, and I've said this before, and I'll close with this. We need to adapt the Sir Lyndon Pendling approach, who was a great prime minister, a former prime minister of the Bahamas, when he said, we are taking a Bahamian-first approach. Well, we need to tweak that line, and but you see, no politician now going to do it. I hear Caymanians complaining about how foreigners are coming in, taking our jobs. And by the way, I am not xenophobic. I love the foreigner because I'm a foreigner when I travel. But no politician. I don't hear our elected representatives saying, oh, my goodness, these people are taking our country over. Oh, my goodness, our Caymanians are being sacrificed because we're getting more work permit holders. The politicians don't complain about it, and they never will. They will never pontificate from a political podium saying that I must put my people first. They will never say, Mr. So-and-so from Timbuktu, you don't think it's time for you to go home now or what? No, because Cayman has a welcoming approach, Caymankind. And the agenda of the Premier and the government is to increase our population. I've said enough for today, reminding everyone, Hope for Today Foundation. And let me separate the two because I don't want to confuse the two now. I'm not a spokesperson for the government. If I get freelance work, I'm paid, but I'm not a spokesperson for the government. I am today selling tickets on a volunteer basis at Foster's Food Fair, airport location. Come on by at Foster's Food Fair. We care. And I'm selling tickets so that you can be a part of the walk run on Sunday, 7 Mile Beach, 6 p.m. Get your tickets only $10. Fabulous prizes to be won. Let us celebrate Recovery Month because we are a part of the solution. We can recover and do well.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. And thank you for reminding us. We'll try to do our part before we close out that their walk is now at 6 p.m. Enjoy the afternoon, Quincy. Gents, a couple of other callers online. Let's take them all. Good afternoon. Thank you for sharing.
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Oh, always thankful.
Quinn, darling, and I'm offending you because I love you like cook food. But I was just making a little correction because it's not named Foster's Food Fair anymore. Foster's has changed. We that live here know that and might call it that, but if suppose a person that doesn't live here come and ask you, where is Foster's? And you tell them, airport foster food fair and they go looking for a foster food fair, they're not going to find it because there's no more food fair anymore. It is fosters. So I know you probably use the same foster food fair, but you got to get used to saying fosters.
Well, thanks for that too. And I mean, for the record, the other day I said I'm going by Kirk Plaza, and it just slipped out. So I understand what you're sharing. Thanks, huh? All right, 2 more calls. Let's take them on, Miss Susan. Come on. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Listen to Prince Brown talking a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our problem in this island is Sterling. We have to learn to face up to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to learn to deal with trust. If we don't trust each other, we ain't going to get nowhere. And most of us ain't trusting most of the expats either. But I wonder if they realize that the Caymanians, the natives of this island, some of the politicians doing some things on the radio that they're inciting the people if they was to really react to what they're saying. We would rebel against. But I glad that they don't. The reason why he didn't come out and say, well, we got this hundreds and odd work permits. Which other country can go and say that and the people just sit down? They're going to rebel against it. Number 2, I wonder if they know that we can call and dissolve the parliament and ask the Queen to send a new delegation down here. I wonder if they know all of that. I wonder if they know that we can repatriate all expats out of this island and reform this island the way that we think it should be. That we Caymanians don't have to be bowing to nobody. We built this island, we slaved for this island, and I think when people come in here, we should have the laws laid down for what we want them to do. If they don't want to accept that, too sad, too bad.
But pardon me, sir, but why don't we do that then? I mean, what I mean to say is that when people feel threatened, Caymanians feel threatened, and they have this option, they know that they have the option, why is it that we don't exercise the option in the most peaceful manner possible? Of course, would be desirable, but why don't we exercise the option? What fear do we exist under?
Sir?
Is this Mr. Sterling or someone else?
Oh, sorry.
Patrick.
My apologies. Today I have the excellent company of both Patrick Schmidt and Badir Harvey joining me. While I was out, the other day, sort of jaunting around the globe, these 2 fine gentlemen were so gracious to fill in. So honored again today that they sit next to me and I can learn from them. So that was Patrick Schmidt asking the question there. What do you think?
He just asked me a question. The thing, what I think is what I know, that the people don't have the knowledge of it. If the people had the knowledge and the wisdom of what they were saying, like when Warren Conley told his senators that all of them was illiterate and they said that was a big word he had used, then the people don't know something, Mr. Sterling. Remember, they just don't know. The greatest thing is to know. If we don't teach our people, they're talking about you got to have this experience and have that experience, Mrs. Sterling, each and every one of us that have a profession had to be taught by someone. And we have to stop this. So if they're going to continue what they're doing, then we're going to have to stand up and say we want them all repatriated and reshuffle the island. Look at them, the Bahamas did it. The Bahamas had to repatriate their expats out of their country. They were building it up the same way we're building the Cayman Islands right now. Am I lying?
We're looking at, as I listen to the historical context of then, would that same thing happen today in the Bahamas? If it did, would the outcome be the same?
I know, because the man that was in charge, he made sure that the Bahamians had a job. He don't go in Bahamian government department and see expat dealing with the natives. So that's not true. That's not true.
Well,
so they must realize, that we came on and not only went to sea. We defend this island, and Fidel Castro came here to invade us. Do they know that? We called on Jamaica to help us. They said they could not help us, Mr. Sterling, because Cuba was building hospitals and schools in Jamaica at the same time. Michael Manley and Fidel Castro was a good associate. Then nobody came here to help us. No one. We stood up, we fight, we defend this island. And now you're going to tell me, excuse me, kiss an expat ass to get a job. And then through all of that, no, Mr. Sterling. Let us put in place what we got to put for our children, our people, and that's the bottom line.
All right. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate the perspective. Well, with that, gents, respectful, let's pause, take a short break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. Please give us a call.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit britk.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca, and an entertainment trivia section.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Merengue Town.
Time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
Hey sis, you ready for the new year of high school?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of nervous. Like, what if I don't fit in? What if I get bullied? What if I don't make any friends or lose the friends I thought were my friends?
Calm down. You're gonna be just fine. Join a club.
I've been thinking about that Youth to Youth one.
Girl, let me fill you in. Y2Y is a teen-led club. We organize our own events, have deep discussions on everyday topics. We volunteer in the community and positively impact our peers. And let me not forget, it's a no judgment zone. I have met so many people there.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Can I bring Carson too?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, awesome. I'll be there. For more information on Youth to Youth, visit ndc.ky or call 949-9000.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining us. It is a fantastic Friday and even better because Patrick Schmidt, but there are we. Thanks for their company, their counsel, their contributions, and as we head to our phones, Miss Susan, she takes the calls and just passes them through. Good afternoon, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, yeah. I think an important engaged narrative.
Yes, sir.
Went on there this afternoon, and I think it's some very important narrative engaging that on this morning on the other talk show, which I put it out as scuppers awash. And I think that could be an indication that there's a little bit of fresh air that's beginning to seep in here, a little changing winds of change. And I think you've got to, it has to be maintained, but the only thing that's going to maintain it is the educational process, as this is a part of. But that some of you guests there, I haven't been listening all the time. I just don't remember what kind of heard some of the comments that have made reference to young people coming up. But not only young people coming up, but I would say most people or most young, I call them youngsters, or I say anybody up to maybe 45 years of age today.
Be careful now, sir.
are a bit lacking in what Caymanian culture, Caymanian heritage, and all this stuff is about and really means. So, and that's because there was not enough educational emphasis put on it in the schools and so forth and so on. You know, prior to the era that I just mentioned, a lot of it was communicated by osmosis through grandfathers, grandmothers, so forth and so on. And some of us, we had a pretty good idea of what it was all about. And unless there is a real emphasis on educating the youngsters, and you got to start from what used to be ABC, in what being Caymanian means, and what it should mean, and what it should demand of everyone being a Caymanian. And until there's I would say a good level, a high level of emphasis on that through all stratas of the community, church, we used to get it in church, we used to get it in Sunday school, and we got a bit of it in school. But basically, I knew more about Garibaldi when I came out, when I left school here, than I knew about Cayman. You know who Garibaldi was?
Italian leader.
Yeah, he was an Italian general, I think. Garibaldi and Lord Nelson and some of these other folks. But there's great opportunity now to get the information that should be disseminated into the community's consciousness with all the technology, and some of the folks who have dwelt into this aspect over the years that have a lot of knowledge, but unfortunately a lot of it is still stuck between their ears. And unless there's a good effort to get this thing in text form and audio form, of course, but I think text form where it can be, should I say, more easily accessed. Maybe that. But anyway, then you're gonna wind up with the same old thing that you're talking about here, 50 years or 10 years, 15 years down the way, which I will probably must be around the next two. But I think until that is inculcated into the Caymanian community consciousness and educational drive forward, then we're gonna be same place we are. And you hear the talk about creating jobs. Well, like, if you look at the reality, why do we need to create more jobs? We've got the first maybe 40,000 jobs in the economy, and only about maybe 20,000 of those are filled by Caymanians.
Less than that.
I think there's a balance that got to be reached there, and maybe officially the sensitivity to this kind of forward thinking is not where it should be. And until that aspect also happens and is promulgated throughout the community, then, like I say, we'll be back at the same level that we are today. And I think Caymanians, they use the word passive. We've been passive. We've been kind of let people know, old people say what, full of wool over the eye, and a lot of that still going on and trying to go on. If you look in the paper, you probably see it every day. But education is the name of the game, and unless there's a giant effort made to promulgate that throughout the society, the community, we're losing it. The two young people that you got on there this morning, I think they are, or this afternoon, they're the ones that have to get out and let their voices be heard. Some of the things they mentioned about jobs, I can tell you, we talk about it going on now, but it's been going on for a long time.
But then would it be a case then, if you just said, let the horses out, would it be like, if we let the young people loose, would there be those who would look at us with contempt and disdain and say, well, what's that song, who let the dogs out? I mean, so if you unleash them, because now we're complaining that we're trying to close the gate after the horses have bolted, right? All of these wonderful cliches are coming out. But with the greatest respect, we're probably not having sufficient dialogue, and there's probably little or no constructive, proactive action to unify the society, to help to resolve some of the issues. Any other thoughts, sir?
Yeah, well, what I just I think covered that in basic tenets, the sensitivity in making sure that these things happen is not there. And you can set that down any way you want it, but it is, it's the basic problem.
Right. Well, maybe we will get there. Hey, thank you, sir. Not just for what you shared, but for having, as I think Badir referenced earlier, a courage, not being afraid of saying something publicly. Thanks for your contribution, sir.
Well, make sure they understand what scuppers are washing.
I was actually going to say to you another phrase that may be lost on too many of us these days because of our disconnect. All right. Hey, thanks, sir. With that, let's pause quickly, gents. Short break and more callers. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
Are your appliances in need of an upgrade? Then you have to check out the big LG appliance sale at Brand Source Home Gallery. This week only, Brand Source has reduced all LG appliances by 20%. That's right, 20% off all LG appliances. Come in and check out our 4-piece kitchen packages in beautiful black stainless steel or regular stainless steel. Or perhaps you need a new washer or dryer. Discover why LG has the most JD Power Awards for home appliances and receive 20% off at Brand Source Home Gallery in Industrial Park. Sale ends September 28th. Call 623-5000 for details.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Super Stitch is having a huge after summer fabric clearance. 25% off most fabrics for 2 days only. So if you snooze, you'll lose. This Friday and Saturday, September 27th and 28th. Lots of African prints, suit-ins, dress prints, and solids. Don't miss these fantastic savings on most fabrics at Super Stitch. Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at number 39 Pasadena Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Work will soon launch Jobs Cayman, an online system that allows registered users to access job postings created by registered employers. This system offers a better approach to facilitate Caymanians in finding employment and allows employers to search for qualified and skilled Caymanians who are seeking employment. For more information on the registration process and what you need to register, visit www.worc.ky. Work, leading the pursuit of full Caymanian employment and economic prosperity for all through service excellence.
Cayman's tourism market is thriving, and the fastest growing segment is vacation home rentals. As a vacation homeowner, Beach Living can help you maximize your share. Beach Living provides a range of management services, multi-channel marketing, guest liaison, check-in, check-out, staging and photography, professional cleaning and maintenance, accounting and tax submissions. Save time and maximize your vacation rental revenue. Call Beach Living on 623-0059 or visit beachlivingci.com.
Logic Fiber Internet is the fastest internet on the island, and it's gotten even better because when you sign up now, you get 1 month free. Sounds great, but there's some very real drawbacks. Your kids will never leave. You'll have nothing to complain about, and you can't blame your online gaming stats on anything but skill. Sign up now for Logic Fiber Internet for the fastest and 1 month freest internet on the island. Visit logic.ky to sign up. Terms and conditions apply.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us, and thanks, honestly, to both Patrick Schmidt, Badir Awi, for sitting in and encouraging the dialogue. Ms. Susan, a couple of calls online. Okay, we'll take your calls. If you got chocolate and it's good quality, we'll share that with you too. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. You on Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green.
And to you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to two young gentlemen there, Mr. Schmidt and the other gentleman.
Badir.
Yeah, okay. And wonderful to hear them on with your interest and your knowledge. What Mr. Locke said, I understand. What Quincy was saying also, to understand. When he mentioned that the guy from East End may say, no, you're not a Caymanian, I'm Caymanian. That's quite possible. And he's right in his own way. He's right. And in the way that generational Caymanians would see it, he's right. Every country has generational or indigenous people, and they deal with that and make sure, many countries do, that they give them special benefits. We know what happened to the Red Indians in the United States, the different tribes, the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Apaches, and the many more Comanches and so forth. Eventually it was corrected by giving them the reservation, which is nothing compared to the land they had before and all that, but no sense going into all that. No, but they have special privileges on those reservations, and they're the indigenous people, so to speak. And they do have very special tax privileges, which is very important, and other privileges also that other people simply cannot get in the United States. Are the citizens, I'm talking about citizens, not those people going resident can't get it. Maybe we'll have to do the same here if we're talking about entrenching that indigenous Caymanians. Understand me now. The generational Caymanians are allowed to have a special benefit. It can happen. I imagine we could do that. I imagine the way I say it, and I've said it before several times, but very rarely on the radio, that maybe we'll have to do that. Reservations in each district that say 100 acres of land. We have all that National Trust land in each of the 5. Let us go back to 5 districts for the moment, just for this talk, what I'm talking about. Which is what we really call it. Anyhow, the Caymanian people, we say it's just 5 districts, again, in Grand Cayman. In Grand Cayman.
Okay, sir.
and then you have 1 in Cayman Brac, right? Which is now 2. And here it's now 17. But we, for argument's sake, we could have 300 acres of land set aside for the indigenous Caymanians in West Bay, maybe more than that for proportionality of the population. And also the same could be done for Georgetown more. You can do it. And that's a special area where they'd be doing, showing the culture, like Mr. Locke said, and Miss Mary, and them Honorable Mary Lawrence, try to put through and show to people that special culture or identity, I call it, and they call it so too, which is a proper way. I see to hammer home the difference of that true Caymanian, that in our culture and our heritage and so forth. It could be done there in farming and making of the straw things, and even making some cat boats and stuff in each district. And that would be the only way I could see that we could really preserve the identity. It could be done a few hundred acres in each district. And those people can go and live there, but it has to, of course, to be generational Caymanian. And it needs several, maybe a few thousand could live there in each one. The districts that don't have that many would be less, etc. So I guess you understand what I'm trying to say. That would be the only way to properly preserve it. Otherwise, with 140 people here, different nationalities, and we have, many have become now residents and came. There is going to be a dilution, and it is there. When I think of Cayman, say, well, you young people might know it, but say the Cayman of the late 60s, early 70s, a completely different Cayman, where the Caymanians were in control, where every job a Caymanian needed was there for them. accepted it. Many guys were going to see still. So, but there was always the Caymanian control in every aspect of it. You put it that way, we'll start to lose that control with the new business we went into, the financial world, when he gave up the sea world and so forth. And gradually phased that out. The main aspect of our material life was the sea. That's why we have that. He has founded up on the seas, on our flag. That's all we were known for, our seafaring abilities. Up until 50 years ago, really nothing else. The women stayed home, ran this country, did so much. And then now we have a totally different thing. And these are young Caymans, even born into this, really don't know that Cayman. We can talk about it to them, and we can talk about it amongst ourselves. And it overlaps in my mind many times. And I'm speaking to young Caymanians and realize that they don't have a clue what I'm talking about when I talk about 45 years ago, 46 years ago, 45 and 35 cents a gallon for gas. And those who smoked a pack of cigarettes was 18 cents and 20 cents, so forth. And just talking about the population, which has quadrupled, and we have no other country to compare ourselves to with that. But I won't digress. If you look at the Cayman Compass, they often do a thing each month where they show you the important events that took place in that month. For September, it's left out two very important events. One is very personal to us. They left out that 23rd of September day when the first women, 1959 Constitution, and the first women were allowed to vote and participate from then on. And that, even the month and so forth, a woman got first elected, and there were women who ran and didn't get elected, but they're just as important as that program that OC did with Miss Mary and Dr. Steve and Miss Teresa and Mark, Pitcairn, Lewis, Pitcairn, that
yes,
emphasized that. And we didn't put that in. The other thing is a very important thing internationally was on September 3rd, 80 years ago, that England declared war against Germany. I'm sure it was September the 3rd. That wasn't in there. In May, they did not have in that famous document that ended the apprenticeship system here. We say abolition of slavery, but that's really not correct. Slavery was already abolished when Captain Pack read the document out here, the 3rd, 5th, and the 6th of May, 1835. That wasn't there in the May edition when they put the important incidents that took place.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for sharing with us. And as we remind our listeners, 1-800-534-8255. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you today, my dear?
Blessed and thankful. And yourself?
Oh, I am. Dwayne, I just want to mention my deepest condolences going out to the Deputy Premier, Mr. Moses Kakano. You know, his mother passed away, and I just believe that as a country, let's pray for him in this difficult time because, he is human, and just offer our prayers. And his mother's funeral is taking place on Sunday in Cayman Black. So, but Dwayne, I'll leave you on that. Anyway, my dear, you take care and God bless, okay?
All right. Blessings to you. And I think it's a good country who can always, support each other up in prayers. Did we really call it just now? Certainly apologize. But Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted Dwayne to do a sort of segue into what the caller was saying, not the last caller, but the one prior to the last caller, insofar as, he was making some suggestions, his own ideas about ways in which to preserve things Caymanian, certainly the culture. But I think that it goes a little bit beyond that, where discussion is now, with all due respect. Insofar as, for example, this morning, I was listening to, had the opportunity to listen to some of the program. It was quite a vivacious exchange, shall we say. And the important point that was made, or one of the very important points that were made, is that, at the end of the day, people adapt faster than education systems can provide for. Right, and we see clear demonstrations of that, even though we haven't had civics and so on in the schools. To make a long story short, we have become, to my understanding, the first country in the Commonwealth to actually have a people-initiated referendum, which has actually succeeded in bringing about the referendum, or the call for a referendum, that is to say, and met the necessary standards. So what this all leads to is, the various callers have suggested things like, do we need to have a war? Do we need to have people in violent exchange and so on in order to break through, in order to avoid that big separation between the upper class and the lower class, so to speak, and the complete elimination of the middle class? And I think that the answer is no, we don't. But we do need to take cognizance of that which is happening to those of us around us, and even if we're not personally experiencing negative things, that we need to be aware of what the community as a whole is experiencing.
Badir, any thoughts before we go off to our break?
Yeah, I think, this immigration issue is an age-old question. When you look at our Judeo-Christian history, the Jews are very careful about isolating themselves and not being contaminated by outside influences. But yet, still, we're open to the outside world as well, right? And, I think that's, and even with early Christianity as well, when the first Christians were Jews, and then the question was, well, we can't open this up to other people, to other nations, whereas Paul came along and was like, no, we definitely got to open this up. And I think with, where we are now with globalization being what it is, we recognize the confines of the earth. The question is still there, and it's amplified now, and it's magnified. And I think when you're having that sense of nationalism, you see it in the U.S., you see it in the U.K., Trump, and there's that question of, well, we have to maintain our identity in the face of all of these outside influences. And I think, broad governing laws can get you so far, but they only get you so far. I think in Cayman, if there is maybe a sort of solution, it's the individual case. And I think in a small island like this especially, in some instances, are Caymanians overlooked? Yes. In another instance, are they overlooked? No. I think you need to take the individual look, like when Quincy called about the taxi, whoever that taxi is, whoever they are, it would be good to look at that case, that individual case, and when you look at that individual case and then see what the problem is and solve it, I think the ramifications would then reverberate outwards to the rest of the community. So I think we have to just get to an individual. I think that's really, and that's what we learned from the communism versus democratic debate. Communism, you put everyone in classes and then you forget about the individuals and it goes wrong. And I think, maybe in our situation, it's not that hard. This is a troubling issue. But if, broad governing laws only get you so far unless they're enforced, let's look at the individual cases. Let's call that taxi driver who's having a problem. Let's chat with them and figure this out.
Yeah, what you're saying is directly related, though, because whilst the individual, you're absolutely right. In my opinion, the individual does need to be considered, and the individual situation needs to be considered. But there's no way you can develop an overall policy without having those experiences, and vice versa. You can't apply an overall policy unless you have the individual experiences. And so the question is, why are we not applying those policies across the board?
All right. When we come back, when we come back from the break, let's ask that. Is Cayman sufficiently small enough that we can focus on the individual?
Yes.
Is it, the answer is there. Let's do it. When we come back, more talk today.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The
Cayman Islands trade delegation, led by the Ministry of International Trade, Investment, Aviation and Maritime Affairs, has laid the groundwork for a visit from His Royal Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco next year. The Premier says the visit will give Cayman and the Monaco Royal an opportunity to further cement and build the relations between the two countries. Nearly 500 men and boys have been rescued from a building in the northern city of Kaduna, where the detainees were allegedly sexually abused and tortured, according to Nigerian police. Children as young as 5 were among those in chains at what was thought to be an Islamic school. The chief of police described it as a, quote, house of torture and a place of human slavery. And Ukraine's former foreign minister Pavlo Klimkin has categorically rejected claims by Donald Trump concerning Mr. Trump's Democratic rival Joe Biden. Mr. Trump has alleged without evidence that Mr. Biden pressed for the sacking of a Ukrainian prosecutor to protect a business that employed his son. Mr. Klimpton told the BBC that the prosecutor was sacked for corruption. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Your favorite event of the year is here. A.L. Thompson's Home Fest is this Friday and Saturday. Come and take advantage of deep discounts on fans, lights, outdoor furniture, paint, bath and kitchen fixtures, cabinets, windows, doors, and much, much more. Enjoy 15% off on trusted brands like Kohler, Delta, Closet Made, and Valspar. Take up to 20% off KitchenAid and Whirlpool appliances. A.L. Thompson's Home Fest is the place to be this weekend. Don't miss the incredible deals on the trusted brands you love at Home Fest.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And if you are able, we certainly invite and welcome and certainly want your continued contribution. So 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. You can also WhatsApp 925-3261. Patrick Schmidt and Badir Avi. Guys, I can't say thanks enough, and I'm saying that for a number of reasons. Primarily, it may cause more of us to be willing to sit around a table like this in a public forum and engage in dialogue, invite contributions and comments from others to be constructively critical, but at the very least to be publicly respectful of differences and different views and opinions. Now, a couple of things I want to share from the WhatsApp messages, but something we talked about earlier, FEAR, right? Now, in the West Bay, or at least for me, it's spelled many different ways, but it's said the same way. Other people with different accents and intonations and, other mannerisms can differentiate, and you can probably actually, me, it's all the same, right? But there's the context. But with fear comes courage, but there, with great respect, you shared earlier that there are many times you would be listening, and all you have to hit send, and you would call in, but you didn't. And I understand that because there are people who are unwilling to do that out of their fear, how it's going to be perceived. They're asking a question, they're thinking out loud, will the wider community hear that and be willing to engage in it? Or will they, unfortunately, criticize the person, castigate them, somehow put them in a bubble, in a context, and then all of a sudden the person is ostracized unknowingly. So let me read a couple of points from some of our listeners. This was a little while back. One listener, a very, very respected gentleman, says, he would like to know what hotels are discriminating against Caymanians specifically, right? He says some other points, but let's leave that. One other listener shares that, although as a status holder, I'm born and raised, but not a Caymanian, right? So where is my abode? Where do I go? says, I'm not eligible to run for government. Only multi-generational Caymanians can run. So really, it is the multi-generational Caymanians in government who are suppressing their own people, not the status holders or the imported labor. So with those sentiments, could I ask the question? Prior to the break, we were asking, Cayman is sufficient, small enough to identify the individual. If I could take a page and say whether it's arts, or whether it's academics, or whether it's athletics, you can find that one student who seemingly has promise and potential, has the passion, enthusiasm, the ability, and identify that person. Much easier in a population of 100,000 or 10,000 or a class of 100 or a class of 10 than it is in a billion, statistically. But we don't do that. If it is a government who is presumably Caymanian and appointing people in position for boards and other entities, whether they're constitutionally recognized institutions supporting democracy, we are the ones going to the polls. Where's the finger pointing? And who is accountable? Who's responsible?
Well, one of the things that occurred to me doing is that, the definition of democracy, as we all know, is of the people, for the people, and by the people, right? At least that's the common one that you hear most frequently. And in saying that, similarly, you hear comments regularly that candidates for election here in the Cayman Islands who have to campaign every 4 years for their seats, they're very much of the people, for the people, and by the people during the campaign, and then not necessarily so after that. To the extent that is true, I couldn't say. I couldn't definitively say because I'm not there on a day-to-day basis to see what decisions are being made. What I can say is that when you look at the overall picture, the questions remain: for whom are we developing, and why are we developing at the pace that we're developing at, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and the complaints which cannot be unfounded, coming from not one person, but from various people across the board in the various sectors of our economy. And the complaints also extend to socioeconomic complaints, not just economic complaints. So, in a nutshell, it draws us still back to that question: for whom are we developing? And what is the goal, and where is the disconnect between our representatives once they are elected and form the government? Because still, they have the responsibility, of course, not saying that they don't honor it, but they have the responsibility to honor those things on the basis of which formed the reason for them being elected.
But you want to jump in?
I mean, you don't ever really want to point your fingers and blame. I think the three fingers pointing back at yourself. Is there a case where I could have spoken up for a particular individual case where I saw a Caymanian not getting his or her fair share? I think we can all play our part in that. I think, we do look to the government a lot, and rightfully so. And we do expect a lot from them, and I think rightfully so. But we are all in this together, and we just have to be cognizant of that.
Well, let me pick it up then, and certainly want our listeners, and I'm hopeful that as a people we're willing to continue this discussion this evening, wherever we are, knocking a good six up in a quick game of dominoes, whether it's tomorrow, as we after church, maybe the sermon from the pastor, whether it's Sunday, it doesn't matter. Let's have this discussion that is healthy and it's inclusive, it's constructive, it's one that builds a sense of unity. But we can't get anywhere if the team isn't gelling together. That one good player on the basketball court or on the football field who is the individual and not being a team player isn't going to enjoy the success, even if the team wins, as much as if even the bench warmers are feeling a part of the jersey, as it were, right? So this notion of speaking up for that individual, let's take two groups of people: the civil servant, who we're told, you can't say anything, you can't even think, you're not supposed to talk, that's the perception that some have. Or it's the private sector employee, whom we're hearing increasingly is being told by the supervisor, the manager, the senior person in the organization, hey, we don't want you talking about whatever that political a public issue is. You know, you're not supposed to have a thought, think, or a brain. Just do. So it doesn't matter if you're public sector or private sector. You're not supposed to think, talk, contribute. You're just supposed to go about like a brainless, you know, whatever. And that is seem to be a real concern that we're hearing in the society. Now, if that is what is transpiring in our place, then where are we?
Yeah, we don't want to tackle these difficult issues because these conversations are difficult. It's if everyone's having fun, everyone's on the same page, it's an easy conversation.
Yep.
You know, but when it becomes difficult, then that's why we back off. That's why we're told don't say nothing. You know, and we hark back to the beginning of the show talking about fear and being brave and.
But you're speaking hypothetically, right? You're not saying that we're afraid of it.
No. You're just saying, you know, as a society. But even so, I bet you that there are people now who are listening who, boy, I want to call it. I really want to give them a piece of my mind. Yeah, I want to support that. No, I want to challenge. But want to say reticent?
Right.
You want to translate that to mean fearful? Because, well, what if my friend listening misinterprets or thinks I'm talking about him or her?
Or what if my boss hears? Or my future employer hears?
And now all of a sudden this thing becomes a public record. Well, remember back in 1932, you made a comment about, you know, it's not just...
And that's legitimate. That is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
The things that you said 10 years ago might resurface.
Data protection law comes into force 30th of September.
Monday. And then I think of people like me. Increasingly, I may be more inclined, not because I was fearful in the past, but because sometimes some people say, well, somebody needs to stand in the gap. If not me, who? If not now, when? You know, we refer to that famous quote that was repeated by Robert F. Kennedy sometime way back when. But where are the Daniels, for those who are subscribed to it, where are those public champions who are going to, hopefully, responsibly and respectfully ask a question, champion something, without it being personal, without it being this vitriolic thing, without it inviting some sort of inflammatory response. But if your parent doesn't stand up and say, listen, Johnny, I know you want to go to movies with your friends, but guess what? I told you on Sunday, you know, during the week you need to go to school, get your homework done, and you need to do these things, because if not, you're not going to go. The parent must be willing to stand by that.
But then if doing, sorry to interrupt you, but
not at all.
The question is, if that parent or whomever the responsible person is, does actually raise the point or does take up for, so to speak, the individual that is suffering or could suffer, then who's to say that will be given any credence? What if the parent is ignored? What if the system maligns them? You know, so these are the I suppose the bigger questions, because you can speak up, but if you're ignored or if you're disadvantaged in some way, all it does is set a poor example.
Right. Well, let me ask, because I think, generally speaking, the difficult conversations relative to, well, is there potentially, just like has, you know, occurred in many jurisdictions throughout history, that people are talking, then they start to agitate, there's still no action, and all of a sudden there is violent confrontation of some sort. So Mr. Warden's comments earlier this morning, what if, you know, in our society we're at that precipice, and if someone very publicly does something physical, so up hands and gives a backhand slap to somebody, whether it's a public official or whether it's a, you know, metaphorically speaking, it isn't a physical hit, it's a written commentary, it's a video posting, critiquing the judiciary. Let me think of other sacrosanct institutions, the ecclesiastical, you know, sort of personnel within our society. So it hits at the church, whether we take on our schools or whatever that thing is. Will that person or that group be seen as a constructive, sort of productive contributor, or will it be seen as malicious and antagonistic?
For me, in my opinion, it all boils down to a question of how it is done.
Okay.
If you are doing things within how civilized society and the laws and so on provide, then I think that there should be no objection to persons objecting to or stating their position in relation to a particular matter.
Even though we talked about freedom of speech and expression, and with a great respect, not just because you're, I guess at my invitation, my guest, but recognizing both your intellect, but equally not wanting to position you in a negative position. So what if, I was to say right now, okay, we've seen we're told within the Commonwealth, a historical undertaking where this jurisdiction now, through provisions in the Constitution, segment of the society, mobilizing itself, getting the requisite signatories to trigger now what would be potential expected referendum. We go back to the caller or two prior who talked about 23rd of September being a day, right, 60 years ago, where women, 4 of the 12, I believe, are on the ballot for the first time. We also should recognize that that particular thing took a long time in the making, and not even that, but 2 years prior. The petition was presented to the then elected body, but it was sat on for a long time because the men who were in a position, the justices of the peace and investment, from what our historical record indicate, did nothing. The then administrator, which is now what we call the governor, intervenes and said, well, we need to get it going, let's see what we can do. So there was a time lag before any action was taken. Again, perhaps to preserve the status quo. But we go back to prior to that, where there was a petition for, why can't we vote just because, we put on a frock in the morning and, we're women and we can't vote? Really? Now, without a level of concerted effort and action and agitation, we would not get to that point. Are we not at the same place now? So what if I was to say, I can't quote the guy properly because, well, just some people, they say things a certain way. But he said, hey, listen, why shouldn't the government immediately make this a priority, not to have the referendum question ready and put on the ballot tomorrow, but let's do it in a year's time so that we can have sufficient dialogue and discourse, right? Or why don't we say, you know what, let's just go to the polls and make this thing an issue so that we don't have the expense of a general election in a year and better, and also prior to that, potentially another expense to the country in the form of a referendum. Now, is that governance responsive to the people, or is that political posturing? Now, if I was to say that, would people look at me, I see where he stands, or would they see it as a bit of a question inciting sort of discourse?
I don't think that anybody could allocate the determined incitement to that particular question. It sounds very, very middle of the line to me. Badir, tell me if you feel differently. But I just would like to put in these couple of words, and that is to say that what we're seeing, which is a good thing, and it's nice to talk about some good things sometimes, is that there are elements of our system which are working, because as we were saying, obviously we've not had a people initiated referendum actually come through before, so now we have it pursuant to the 2009 Constitution. Now, of course, there's a long way to go. There are a lot of things to achieve, and there are a lot of other important issues which need to be addressed. But as was also said this morning, if the government, for example, who is of the people, by the people, and for the people, were not to abide by the provisions that are in the Constitution and that result from the 6,000 odd persons signing the referendum, I'm not saying I'm taking one position or the other.
Not at all.
But if they were not to abide by it, then you always have the recourse of things like the courts, as we saw in the mother country itself, with Mr. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, being overruled by the Supreme Court, and Parliament having been prorogued, being called back in on Wednesday.
Because of his actions,
Exactly, or the inaccuracy of his actions.
Yeah. Badir. I say Badir, why you got to call so?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you present a case, people will say, all right, that's where he stands on the issue. And sometimes it's worth making a case for an issue that you don't agree with, and that people think that you actually agree for that case. That happens to me a lot. People think I actually...
Because you do it.
Yeah.
Effectively too. Very effectively.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of how you advance forward in knowledge and truth. You have to understand the other side of it, right? So I think I don't know that we can get away from that, What I think is important too, because I see this a lot, is when you start judging the moral character of a person based on their politics.
Yeah.
When you start calling someone evil, right? God is the judge at the end of the day. The first would be last, the last would be first. Tax collectors, sinners entering the kingdom of God before you. All of that. Like, we don't. That's when I think that's where you have to be very careful. And I see that in the U.S. a lot. It's obviously we get a lot of U.S. news where people will judge the moral character just because of your political belief. And I think that's, you don't want to go there, you know. And
judge not lest ye be judged, huh?
Amen.
All right. Well, Susan's going to judge us now. Let's go for a break. It is the final break. Please, stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners, serving the Cayman Islands for over 60 years. Take advantage of this fall special from now until 31st October, offering owners special 12% off all prepaid orders, $20 and up on all household items, plus ladies and gents apparel. This offer is good at all our stores. Savannah Countryside, 946-1884. Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, 949-2452. Eastern Avenue, Georgetown, 949-7104. Drive-through, rain or shine. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good.
Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane hits. Debris includes roofing materials, downed tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles to the front of the property or at a side that is easily accessible to collection trucks. Debris must be placed in a location that will not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For more post-hurricane waste management tips, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. And thanks to Badir and Patrick Schmidt for, honestly, gents, sharing not just your time in the afternoon with me, but your willingness to engage in some meaningful dialogue. And hopefully, honestly, praying that as a people who live and call this place home, Badir, to your words, as an individual, we each individually do all we can to raise the bar, to make it better, improve, what we can. If everybody did that, if every team player trained hard, played as a team, the team will be that much better. Mm-hmm. Now, it starts with the one. And I think that one can make a significant difference. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've seen the big picture, but hopefully, this will change, the paradigm, and maybe through this weekend, whatever form of libation, whatever form of activity, we'll find time to be constructive, productive, and inclusive. But hey, I have been accused of being, a positive individual, so not a bad thing, I don't think.
Optimistic.
Yeah, optimistic, optimistic. I might be tall, but at least I'm positive. But how do we then? I wish that we had 2 more days, and that probably would still be insufficient. So in the waning minutes of today's discussion, as we look to the weekend, as we invite people to consider the start of the week in a way that is better, don't be better than the other person, be better than you were yesterday as an individual. But what do we do? How do we do it?
I mean, confront the issues.
Mm-hmm.
face the fear. You know, it's never as bad as it seems. You know, I think express yourself, yes. Tackle those issues that you don't want to tackle. At the end of the day, when you have those conversations, when you come off the air, when you've made that call, you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, like, I think the individual perspective, I think, is a great way to look at things and to understand things and to embrace the individual, talk to the individual, be on that person's side if all you're doing is listening. I think that's also just a very important thing to do. And, you know, try and break down from that broader perspective to a more individualized, humanistic perspective. Understand someone's feelings, listen to them, even if you can't relate. And, you know, maybe we can all use that as a bit of advice this weekend and going forward. I know I can. I tend to think broad and generally a lot easier than specifically. So maybe I can take my own advice this weekend and see what I can do from a more face-to-face personal basis with people.
Sense of humanity, sense of humility, but with sincere honesty. Particular question that you asked earlier that I know has been asked, unfortunately, unanswered to, for a long time, decades. For whom are we developing? Some people would hear that, and as politicians, they'll get bent out of the shape. Some people hear that, and as policymakers, will get bent out of the shape. As property developers, get bent out of the shape because they're not seeing perhaps the big picture. We're probably going to see the planning authority at some point being asked to approve developments that may be cutting edge in other jurisdictions, maybe perhaps customary. But are they appropriate for this jurisdiction in terms of the physical landscape, the socioeconomic situation, the fact that there are potential hazards relative to hurricanes and the like? But equally, we may be asked to look at properties and say, well, why do we have some properties as gated exclusive communities impeding access? Why are we not, in some instances, developing properties in a much higher density, without creating this ghetto community, this housing like project that we tend to associate? If we don't look at some of the maybe more populous areas, how do we make that balance? But at the end of the day, the development isn't just physical, it's the societal impact.
Well, I think we know that something has to keep the economy going. We've talked about all kinds of things, including diversification and options within what we currently have and so on. But what I'd like to actually bring the whole discussion back to, from my perspective, is exactly what Badir said, insofar as consider not just what is good for yourself, but what is good for someone else. Consider how much better communication between people can improve things, and that will spread across the entirety of the population eventually, or has the potential to do so. And remember that people are people everywhere in the world, everywhere you go. We still have the same fundamental factors that drive us and the same fundamental goals that are important to us. And if we keep those things at the front and fore, we are likely to be a better community as a whole. And that would be the way I would encapsulate that best.
Well, I think whether we are polyglots or otherwise, whether we see people, we say bienvenido, whether we say buenos dias, bonjour, whatever we do to welcome people, let's do it with a sense of sincerity. We have an honest, hospitable nature in inviting people. This is a wonderful country and an excellent community. The obvious sins and ills are evident, but it can be solved. But are we willing to solve them? Yeah.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, too, we live in a temporal world. We live in time and space. There's always going to be inefficiencies. There's always going to be places where we don't add up. But the point is to keep that to a minimum. So we can't really ask for perfection because it can't exist in this world. But it's keeping it to a minimum. And, that's, I think, probably why violence is there. Violence, that underlying threat of violence means that you have gone too far. And if that ever happens, and, we have to keep that in our minds, we know we've gone too far. So, yeah, well, it would be great to have perfection. It's not going to happen in this world. Let's keep the inefficiencies to a minimum, and just be happy with that.
Don't worry. Come on, Susan. Be happy. You see, that's one thing I know I won't do. That's sing. There's one thing I know I will do, and that's laugh, smile, and be joyous and grateful. Patrick, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
And enjoy the weekend. But there to you, likewise, and to our listeners, it is a beautiful place. Sometimes we have to call a spade, but sometimes you got to take the spade, be willing to, till the soil in order to plant the tree, the seed, in order for it to take root and for it to bear fruit. But sometimes you got to prune, and prune hard too.
True that.
With that in mind, Susan says, boy, if you have a job Monday, you're lucky. She didn't say that. She did not say that. No, challenge the status quo, but do so respectfully.
Yes.
Champion the causes that you believe in, but equally be respectful of others' opinions. Don't necessarily have to be wrong just because they disagree with you, but you don't have to be right either just because you stand alone. Let's walk about this community with a sense of a positive, productive, sense about us. Monday is Monday. Well, until we get there, let's enjoy the weekend. Let's embrace it, and let's be as cheerful and as blessed as we can. Until Monday, be blessed.
After all that talk, sit back,